The cold wind howled through the barren branches of the ancient oaks surrounding the Ashcroft estate, a sprawling manor nestled deep in the English countryside. Winter's cruel grasp was tightening, blanketing the world outside in a veil of biting frost and relentless grey skies. Inside the grand yet somber walls, a young girl sat curled by the hearth, her pale fingers clutching a threadbare doll as if it were the last link to a distant warmth. Her name was Eliza Thornfield, a name unfamiliar to most in the surrounding villages. She was an orphan left adrift in the world after the untimely death of her parents in a tragic carriage accident when she was barely 6. The Thornfield estate, once vibrant and alive with laughter, had become a prison of shadows and silent memories. Eliza's earliest days had been spent in the care of her maternal aunt, Mrs. Davenport, a stern woman whose heart had hardened over the years. The mansion's sprawling halls echoed not with the joy of childhood but with cold commands and whispered resentments. Here, Eliza was neither welcomed nor loved. She was a burden, a constant reminder of a past Mrs. Davenport wished to forget. Each morning, Eliza awoke to the bitter chill of the drafty chamber. She was confined to a small, sparsely furnished room atop the northern wing. The window was cracked, allowing the icy air to creep in, chilling her thin nightgown and causing her to shiver beneath the faded patchwork quilt. From that window, she could glimpse the twisted limbs of the gnarled trees, their skeletal fingers scratching at the sky as if pleading for mercy. Her daily routine was one of silent endurance. Breakfast was a hurried, meager affair, often taken alone in the cold kitchen while the Davenport children, Julian, Cecily, and Robert, bantered and laughed elsewhere, conspicuously excluding her. Their laughter was sharp and cutting, a constant reminder that Eliza was an outsider in the only home she had left. Julian Davenport, the eldest, was a boy of 15 with cruel eyes and a temper as volatile as the storms that battered the estate. He took particular delight in tormenting Eliza, pushing her from doorways, stealing her few treasured books, and mocking her quiet demeanor. Cecily and Robert followed his lead, their cruelty masked in childish games that left Eliza bruised in both body and spirit. Yet, Eliza was not without resilience. Beneath her gentle exterior was a flickering flame of defiance. She found solace in the books she secretly borrowed from the estate's dusty library, tales of distant lands, valiant heroes, and fearless heroines who overcame despair. These stories became her sanctuary, fueling her dreams of escape and self-discovery. One particularly bleak afternoon, as the rain lashed against the window panes and the wind whistled mournfully through the chimneys, Eliza sat huddled in the nursery, a quiet refuge where she sometimes dared to linger. The faint scent of lavender and old paper filled the air as she turned the fragile pages of a worn volume, The Chronicles of Avalon, a story of magic, courage, and redemption. Suddenly, the heavy oak door creaked open, and Mrs. Davenport's cold voice pierced the silence. "Eliza, you are not to linger here. The children are to have no company but their own. Away with you to your room." Eliza's heart sank, but she rose silently, clutching the book to her chest. As she passed the grand staircase, she caught a glimpse of Julian sneering from the top step. His eyes gleamed with malice as he called out, "Don't think we don't see you skulking about, little shadow. You're no one here." The words stung like a whip, but Eliza swallowed her tears. One day, she whispered to herself, "I will be someone. I will leave this place and find where I truly belong." That night, as the manor lay shrouded in darkness and the winds howled their lonely lament, Eliza lay awake beneath her thin blanket, the flicker of candlelight casting long shadows on the walls. In the stillness, she resolved that no matter how cold or unkind the world might be, she would survive, and beyond survival, she would thrive. The dawn would bring a new day, and with it, the first steps of a journey that would challenge her very soul, a journey from the shadows of childhood into the blazing light of self-discovery. The days that followed at Ashcroft Estate wove a tapestry of coldness and cruelty that threatened to smother the flicker of hope burning within Eliza Thornfield. Each morning, the manor's heavy doors seemed to close tighter around her, imprisoning her in a world where affection was scarce and cruelty abundant. Eliza's only sanctuary remained the sprawling estate grounds, though even there, freedom was shadowed by the ever-watchful eyes of her tormentors. The endless gray skies, the twisted brambles, and the frozen ponds all seemed to echo the loneliness she felt inside. Julian Davenport, with his sharp tongue and ruthless hands, continued his reign as the tyrant of the household. His cruel jokes and endless jabs were relentless, each one cutting deeper than the last. Yet, what disturbed Eliza most was not only the mockery but the indifferent complicity of Mrs. Davenport, her aunt, whose heart seemed locked behind walls thicker than the manor's stone. One bleak afternoon, as a cold drizzle settled over the estate, Eliza found herself cornered in the dimly lit library by Julian and his younger siblings. Their laughter echoed ominously as they seized the fragile book she had clutched so tightly the previous night, the Chronicles of Avalon. Pages ripped, ink smeared, dreams shattered. "You'll never belong here, Eliza," Julian sneered, crushing the book beneath his boot. "You're just a shadow, a mistake." Tears pricked her eyes, but she swallowed the pain, hiding it behind a mask of quiet defiance. "I may be a shadow now," she whispered, voice barely audible, "but even shadows can grow into something stronger." The cruel words seemed to stir something unexpected in her tormentors. Cecily's smile faltered, and Robert's sneer became uncertain. Yet Julian, sensing weakness, bellowed, "Silence! You're nothing here." That evening, as the household gathered in the grand dining hall, the flickering candlelight illuminated faces of indifference, disdain, and entitlement all turned away from Eliza's silent presence. She ate her meager meal alone, the weight of isolation pressing on her like the cold stone beneath her chair. But in the darkest corners of the manor, Eliza was not entirely alone. An old servant, Mrs. Hargrove, watched the girl with soft eyes that hid a deep well of sympathy. One night, as Eliza sneaked to the kitchen for a scrap of bread, Mrs. Hargrove whispered, "Child, strength comes not from the world, but from the fire within. Remember that." Her words sparked a fragile flame of hope, a promise that somewhere beyond these walls lay a future that Eliza could claim as her own. Days turned into weeks, and the harsh winter deepened. One icy morning, Eliza awoke to find herself summoned to Mrs. Davenport's cold drawing room. The aunt's gaze was icy, Her voice clipped. "You will prepare yourself," she said, "to leave Ashcroft. You will be sent to Miss Caldwell's school, a place for girls who need discipline and education." Eliza's heart raced. Leaving Ashcroft was both terrifying and exhilarating. The unknown loomed ahead, but it held a promise of escape from the chains of cruelty. Packing her few belongings, Eliza found herself alone at the edge of the estate grounds, the ancient oaks looming like silent sentinels. She paused, looking back at the looming silhouette of Ashcroft Manor, its windows dark like eyes that had witnessed too many sorrows. "I will return one day," she vowed quietly. Not as a shadow, but as a light. The carriage awaited a cold, creaking vessel that would carry her away from all she had known. As the wheels turned and the manor faded into the distance, Eliza felt the stirrings of a new chapter, one fraught with trials, friendships, and the first taste of freedom. But the road ahead was long and uncertain, and the shadows of Ashcroft were not easily escaped. The journey to Caldwell Academy was long and harsh. Wrapped tightly in a threadbare cloak, Eliza Thornfield shivered against the biting wind that swept across the barren moorlands. The landscape outside the carriage windows was bleak and unforgiving. Twisted heather, jagged rocks, and endless gray skies seemed to echo the uncertainty gripping her heart. As the wheels rattled over the rough road, Eliza's thoughts turned inward. She wondered what awaited her in this new place, a school rumored to be as cold and unforgiving as the world she had just fled. But despite the fear, a fierce determination burned within her. She refused to let her past define her future. Arriving at Caldwell was like stepping into another world. The academy loomed before her, a vast stone fortress perched on a hill, its tall windows like watchful eyes. The air was thick with the scent of damp stone and old books, mingled with the faint but sharp tang of discipline. Inside, the corridors echoed with the sharp clicks of polished boots and whispered rumors. Girls in plain gray dresses moved like shadows, their faces drawn and serious. Eliza felt the weight of countless gazes as she was led through the halls by Miss Caldwell herself, a woman as stern as the walls she governed, with piercing gray eyes that missed nothing. "Here, girl," Miss Caldwell said coldly, "you will learn not only your letters but the discipline required of a proper lady. Fail, and you will find the consequences harsh." Eliza nodded silently, her resolve hardening. She would endure. The days that followed tested every fiber of her being. Mornings began before dawn with rigorous drills, standing at attention until her legs shook, reciting Latin verbs until her tongue faltered. The teachers were unyielding, their sharp eyes watching for any sign of weakness. Yet amidst the hardships, Eliza found unexpected camaraderie. In the dim light of the dormitory, she met Amara, a spirited girl with fiery red hair and a quick wit. Amara's laughter was a balm to Eliza's bruised spirit, and their whispered conversations beneath the covers became a refuge from the relentless discipline. Together, they dreamed of worlds beyond the cold walls, secret gardens, sun-dappled fields, and skies wide enough to hold their hopes. But not all at Caldwell was friendship. Eliza's fiery spirit soon drew the ire of Miss Braithwaite, the matron, a woman whose smile never reached her eyes and whose punishments were as swift as they were cruel. One day, caught reading a forbidden book beneath the oak tree during a brief recess, Eliza was dragged before the entire assembly. Miss Brythuite's voice rang out, "Disobedience will not be tolerated. For your defiance, you will receive a fortnight of solitary confinement." The days in isolation were a test of Eliza's resilience. Locked in a small, damp cell with only a straw mattress and the cold stone walls, she faced the oppressive silence. Yet, in that solitude, her mind soared. She recalled the stories of heroines who had risen from darkness to claim their light. She vowed she too would overcome. Outside, the harsh winter deepened. Snow blanketed the grounds, transforming the austere academy into a silent world of white. Eliza watched from her window as girls huddled around fires, their breath visible in the frigid air. One snowy evening, a message arrived for Eliza, a letter bearing the faint scent of lavender. With trembling hands, she unfolded the fragile parchment. It was from Mrs. Hargrove, the kind servant from Ashcroft. "Remember, dear child, you carry not only your own hopes but the strength of those who love you. Trust yourself, and you shall prevail." Tears warmed Eliza's frozen cheeks. That letter became a talisman, a beacon guiding her through the coldest nights. Amidst the trials, Eliza's heart began to awaken. She found herself drawn to the quiet library, where dusty tomes whispered secrets of worlds beyond. One afternoon, as she traced her fingers over an ancient volume on natural philosophy, she caught the gaze of a young teacher, Mr. Alistair Greaves. Tall and reserved, with eyes like storm clouds and a voice that held the warmth of spring, Alistair was unlike anyone Eliza had ever known. Their brief encounters were charged with unspoken understanding, a meeting of minds amidst the rigid walls. Yet, Eliza kept her distance. Trust was a fragile thing, easily shattered. As winter slowly yielded to spring, Eliza Thornfield stood at the cusp of change. The trials of Caldwell were forging her spirit, hardening her resolve and awakening desires she had long buried. But the path ahead remained uncertain. Shadows from her past lingered, and the promise of a future yet to be claimed whispered on the winds. Spring's gentle breath had begun to thaw the icy grip of Caldwell Academy, yet for Eliza Thornfield, the season of renewal was shadowed by a restless longing, a yearning not just for freedom, but for truth. Her days were filled with lessons and duties, but her nights belonged to dreams, vivid, haunting visions that pulled at the edges of her consciousness. In those dreams, she wandered through endless corridors bathed in flickering candlelight, hearing distant whispers that called her name. One evening, while wandering the Academy's vast library searching for refuge from the harsh world, Eliza stumbled upon a hidden passage concealed behind a towering shelf of ancient manuscripts. The woodwork was intricately carved with symbols she could not decipher, yet they seemed oddly familiar, like echoes of a forgotten language whispering secrets just beyond her grasp. Curiosity piqued, she slipped inside. The passage was narrow and damp, lit only by the faint glow of phosphorescent moss clinging to the stones. It wound downward, spiraling into darkness. The air grew cooler, thick with the scent of earth and mystery. At the end, Eliza found herself in a hidden chamber, walls lined with faded tapestries depicting battles between shadowy figures and radiant heroes, cryptic runes etched into the floor, and an ancient, dust-covered chest resting beneath a crack-stained glass window. As she approached the chest, a sudden noise startled her, footsteps echoing softly from above. Quickly, she hid behind a tapestry as the heavy footsteps descended the stairs. To her astonishment, it was Mr. Alastair Greaves, the young teacher she had noticed before, but not alone. A tall figure cloaked in midnight blue accompanied him, a stranger with piercing eyes that seemed to glow faintly in the dark. Their voices were low, urgent. "The time draws near," the stranger whispered. "The legacy of Thornfield must be protected." Alastair nodded gravely. "Eliza cannot know yet. The power she carries is ancient, dangerous." Eliza's heart pounded in her chest. Power. Legacy. What could they possibly mean? And why was her name spoken in such hushed tones? Suddenly, a shard of glass slipped from the window, clattering to the floor. Alastair and the stranger froze. The stranger hissed, "Someone's here." Eliza held her breath, caught in a web of fear and fascination. Moments later, the footsteps retreated, and the chamber fell silent once more. Shaken but undeterred, Eliza returned to her room with questions swirling like storm clouds in her mind. The next day, she sought out Amara, her loyal friend, and recounted the secret she had uncovered. Together, they resolved to uncover the truth about Thornfield's mysterious past and Eliza's place within it. Meanwhile, tensions at Caldwell escalated. Miss Braithwaite's punishments grew harsher, and whispers of rebellion stirred among the girls. Eliza found herself at the center of a growing unrest, a symbol of defiance against the cruelty that bound them. One stormy night, as thunder rattled the windows and rain hammered the roofs, Eliza awoke to a soft tapping at her chamber door. It was Amara, eyes wide with urgency. "Eliza, they're coming for you," she whispered. "Miss Braithwaite suspects you've been sneaking into forbidden places. You must leave now." Grabbing a cloak and a small satchel, Eliza slipped through the shadowed halls, heart pounding like a wild drum. She felt the weight of centuries of secrets pressing down on her, but also a fierce hope that beyond these walls, a destiny awaited. As she reached the edge of the grounds, a figure stepped from the shadows. It was Alastair. "Come with me," he urged. "There are things you must know. Things that will change everything." Without hesitation, Eliza took his hand, stepping into the stormy night, into a world where love, danger, and ancient power would collide. The rain had not ceased since Eliza Thornfield fled the cold halls of Caldwell Academy. Wrapped tightly in Alastair Greaves's cloak, she felt the relentless storm wash away the last traces of her old life, a cleansing baptism into a world unknown and perilous. They moved swiftly through the tangled woods surrounding Thornfield Estate, the trees whispering secrets as lightning split the night sky. Alastair's grip on her hand was steady, reassuring, a lifeline amid the chaos. "I must tell you everything," he said, his voice low but urgent. "Your lineage is no accident. You are heir to a power older than these lands, bound to Thornfield's very stones." Eliza's breath caught. power. But I am nothing, just an orphan, a shadow. On the contrary, Alistair replied, you carry the blood of the Luminaris, guardians of the ancient light. For centuries, their legacy has been hidden, protected by those who understand the dangers it holds. As they reached a secluded clearing, Alistair revealed a hidden entrance to an underground crypt, sealed by intricate runes glowing faintly with ethereal light. Within lies the Heartstone, he explained. A source of immense energy, capable of great good or devastating destruction. Thornfield was built atop this sacred place to guard it. Eliza felt a mixture of awe and fear. Why was I sent to Caldwell? Why hide me away? To protect you, Alistair said gravely. Dark forces seek the Heartstone's power. Your enemies would use you as a pawn, or worse. Suddenly, a chilling howl echoed through the woods, followed by the snapping of branches. Shadows moved among the trees, figures cloaked in darkness, eyes burning like embers. They've found us, Alistair warned, drawing a slender sword that shimmered with a blue glow. You must be ready, Eliza. As the dark figures advanced, Eliza felt a surge within, a warmth blossoming in her chest, spreading to her fingertips. The ancient blood awakening. She stepped forward, raising her hands, and a radiant light burst forth, casting the shadows back with a force she barely understood. The attackers faltered, retreating into the night, but the message was clear: the battle for Thornfield and Eliza's destiny had begun. Back in the manor, the sinister figure she had seen before, the midnight cloaked stranger, watched the scene unfold through a hidden mirror. A cruel smile curled his lips. So, the Luminaris awakens, he murmured. Let the game begin. Meanwhile, Eliza and Alistair returned to the surface, breathless but resolute. You are stronger than you know, Alistair said, but strength alone will not save you. You must learn to harness your heritage and trust those who stand with you. In the days that followed, Eliza trained under Alistair's tutelage, mastering ancient rites, deciphering cryptic texts, and uncovering secrets buried deep within Thornfield's history. Yet, even as she grew in power, the cost weighed heavy. Friends became enemies, betrayals lurked in familiar faces. And the line between light and darkness blurred with each passing day. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Eliza stood on the balcony overlooking the estate's wild gardens. The wind whispered promises of change, and in her heart, a fierce resolve took root. No longer a shadow. No longer alone. She was ready to claim her destiny, whatever the price. The awakening of Eliza Thornfield's powers had set forces in motion far beyond the quiet halls of Thornfield Estate. Word of the Luminaris' bloodline stirred whispers in shadowed corners of distant cities and forgotten realms. Some viewed her as a beacon of hope, others as a threat to be extinguished. As dawn broke over the mist-shrouded moors, Eliza awoke to a summons. Alistair had arranged a clandestine meeting, a gathering of those sworn to protect the ancient legacy and to stand against encroaching darkness. In a hidden chamber beneath Thornfield's chapel, lit by flickering candles and lined with ancient relics, Eliza met a small but formidable assembly. Lady Seraphina Voss, a warrior mage with fiery hair and eyes that burned with unyielding resolve. She had long defended the realms from dark magic and saw in Eliza the spark of a new era. Eamon Blackwood, a rogue scholar and master of ancient languages, whose wit was as sharp as the daggers hidden beneath his cloak. His knowledge would prove vital in unlocking Thornfield's secrets. Brother Callan, a stoic monk with a past shrouded in mystery, wielding both spiritual wisdom and deadly martial skill. As the group exchanged wary glances, Alistair outlined a dire situation. The darkness moves swiftly. The Order of the Obsidian Veil seeks the Heartstone to unleash chaos upon our world. Eliza is their target. We must protect her and prepare. Eliza felt the weight of their expectations, but also a fierce pride. She was no longer alone in her struggle. Yet, even among allies, tension simmered. Lady Seraphina questioned Eliza's readiness, her gaze sharp. Power without control invites ruin. Are you prepared to bear the burden? Eliza met her gaze steadily. I will learn. I must. Days turned into nights filled with rigorous training, mastering elemental forces, meditating to harness inner light, and deciphering cryptic prophecies. Eliza's bond with her new companions deepened, forging friendships tempered in fire. But darkness struck unexpectedly. One stormy evening, as the group convened, the chamber doors burst open. Figures cloaked in black poured in, agents of the Obsidian Veil, led by the sinister stranger from before, his eyes glowing with malice. Chaos erupted. Spells clashed, swords sang, and shadows danced. Eliza, though untested, rose to the challenge. Channeling her growing power, she unleashed a brilliant burst of light that scattered their foes, buying precious moments. Yet, amid the fray, a hidden blade found its mark. Brother Callan fell, his final words a whispered prayer for Eliza's strength. The battle ended as swiftly as it began, leaving the chamber scarred and hearts heavy. Eliza knelt beside Callan's still form, tears mingling with rain from the storm outside. This is only the beginning, Alistair said solemnly. The path ahead will demand sacrifice. As the storm raged on, Eliza Thornfield's resolve hardened. She would face the coming darkness not as a frightened orphan, but as the luminous heir to a legacy that could save or doom them all. The death of Brother Callan weighed heavily on the hearts of Eliza Thornfield and her allies, a grim reminder of the cost they faced. Thornfield's hidden chamber was somber and silent, the flickering candlelight casting long shadows on the walls scarred by battle. As dawn broke, the group gathered to mourn, yet beneath their grief simmered a more dangerous truth: betrayal. Eamon Blackwood paced the chamber, eyes narrowed. Our defenses were breached from within. Someone has betrayed us. Whispers circled like vultures. Suspicion fell on each member, yet no evidence emerged. Eliza's heart thundered. Could one of her trusted companions be a spy for the Obsidian Veil? Lady Seraphina's voice cut through the tension. We must uncover the traitor before it's too late. To distract from the growing distrust, Alistair proposed a desperate plan, a journey to the ancient ruins of Eldermoor, the birthplace of the Luminaris, where Eliza might unlock deeper powers and find the strength to confront their enemies. The journey was perilous. Thornfield's allies ventured into dense forests shrouded in mist and legend. At night, eerie lights flickered among the trees, and haunting melodies drifted on the wind. One evening, as the group set camp beneath twisted oaks, Eliza awoke to soft footsteps outside her tent. Peering through the flap, she saw Eamon, his face pale and eyes haunted. "Eliza," he whispered urgently, "there's more at stake than we know. The obsidian veil seeks not only the heartstone but your very soul." Before she could respond, a blood-curdling scream shattered the night. The camp erupted into chaos as shadowy figures attacked. Eliza fought fiercely, her powers blazing bright as she repelled the attackers. Yet amidst the fray, Eamon vanished, leaving behind a cryptic note. "Trust no one. The darkness wears many faces." The next morning, betrayal became undeniable. Eamon was missing, and with him, a key artifact vital to their mission. The group's unity fractured. Lady Seraphina's icy gaze fixed on Alistair. "Did you know of this? Are you hiding secrets?" Alistair's jaw clenched, his eyes shadowed. "There are truths I cannot reveal, not yet." Eliza felt the weight of leadership settle on her shoulders. In a world where allies could be foes, and darkness lurked in every shadow, she must find her own path. The ruins of Eldermoor awaited a place of ancient magic and forgotten truths. There, Eliza hoped to awaken the full power of the Luminaris and confront the betrayals threatening to destroy them all. The ruins of Eldermoor rose from the mist like the bones of an ancient titan, their cracked stones whispering forgotten secrets and faded glory. As Eliza Thornfield and her fractured band of allies approached, the weight of history pressed heavily upon their shoulders. The air was thick with magic, a potent blend of power and peril that made the hairs on Eliza's arms stand on end. Each step deeper into the ruins seemed to echo with voices from the past, calling her name. Within the crumbling temple, intricate carvings depicted the Luminaris, celestial guardians who wielded light against encroaching darkness. In the center stood an altar, cracked but radiant with residual energy. Eliza stepped forward, her fingers trembling as she traced the ancient glyphs. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath her feet, and a warm glow surged from the altar, enveloping her in blinding light. Visions flooded her mind, stars collapsing and birthing anew, battles waged across realms, and a prophecy etched in time. When shadow and light collide, the bearer of the ancient flame shall rise to tip the scales. Betrayed and tested, she shall awaken the true power within. As the light faded, Eliza felt strength coursing through her veins, a deep connection to the Luminaris' legacy awakening. But amidst this awakening came a chilling realization. A second presence stirred within the ruins, a dark force drawn to her newfound power. Suddenly, a figure cloaked in shadow materialized, a woman with eyes like burning coals and a smile twisted by malice. "Welcome, Eliza," she purred, voice dripping with venom. "I am Morgana, last scion of the Obsidian Veil. Your awakening threatens my plans. Surrender, or be consumed. Eliza's heart pounded. The final confrontation was at hand. As Morgana unleashed tendrils of shadow, Eliza called upon the light within, weaving a shield of radiant energy that shimmered and sparked. A fierce battle erupted, light clashing with darkness, wills tested and broken. At a critical moment, Lady Seraphina joined the fray, wielding twin blades ablaze with ancient magic. Together, they forced Morgana to retreat, but not before the dark sorceress hissed a chilling warning. This is only the beginning. Your fate and that of the realms are entwined, and the true darkness sleeps still. Breathless and battered, Eliza turned to her allies, the weight of destiny heavier than ever. The path ahead would demand sacrifices yet unknown, but with the power of Elder Moor awakened, hope burned brighter. Eliza Thornfield was no longer a shadow. She was the flame that could change the world. The aftermath of the battle at Elder Moor left Eliza Thornfield and her allies both victorious and vulnerable. Morgana's retreat had spared them for now, but her ominous warning lingered like a poison in their minds, a chilling promise that darker forces still slumbered, waiting to rise. Returning to Thornfield, the estate seemed quieter, almost too still. The once familiar halls echoed with whispers of secrets yet to be uncovered. Eliza's mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions, newfound power, the weight of destiny, and a growing unease that the true enemy had not yet revealed itself. Days passed in tense vigilance. Lady Seraphina and Alastair led the training with renewed urgency, preparing Eliza for what lay ahead. But beneath the surface, cracks began to form, alliances strained, trust wavered, and shadows crept in unexpected places. One evening, as the golden sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of crimson and violet, Eliza received a secret visitor, a masked figure cloaked in midnight silk, their identity hidden beneath a veil. "I bring a message," the figure whispered, voice muffled yet urgent. "There is a conspiracy within Thornfield itself. The Obsidian Veil has infiltrated your sanctuary. You must beware." Eliza's heart pounded. Betrayal from within was the darkest shadow of all. The masked messenger slipped her a delicate pendant, a silver crescent entwined with a serpent, a symbol she recognized from the ancient texts as the mark of the Veil's traitors. Before Eliza could question further, the visitor vanished into the gathering night. Determined to root out the conspiracy, Eliza confided in Lady Seraphina and Alastair. Together, they devised a plan to expose the traitor hiding in plain sight. Their suspicions soon fell upon Mistress Calder, the head steward of Thornfield. Calm and composed before all, her smile masked a calculating mind. Several unexplained lapses in security and missing relics pointed toward her possible treachery. Eliza resolved to confront Calder, but not without caution. She enlisted the aid of Amara and a few trusted allies to discreetly observe the steward's actions. One storm-racked night, the group followed Calder through winding corridors leading to a hidden chamber deep beneath the manor. There, they uncovered a clandestine meeting with figures cloaked in black, members of the Obsidian Veil conspiring to seize the Heartstone and eliminate Eliza. Eliza's blood ran cold. The betrayal was deeper than imagined. In the heat of the moment, A sharp cry pierced the shadows. Amara had been discovered and seized by the conspirators. Without hesitation, Eliza rushed to her friend's aid, drawing upon every ounce of her power to fight the encroaching darkness. Blinding light erupted from her palms, scattering the shadows and forcing the enemies to retreat. Yet, the cost was high. Amara lay unconscious, her life hanging by a thread. As dawn broke over Thornfield, Eliza sat by Amara's bedside, tears streaming down her cheeks. The fight was far from over, but the bonds forged in fire would be their salvation. In the days that followed, Eliza and her allies tightened their defenses, rooting out spies and strengthening their hold on Thornfield. Alistair revealed more about his own past. Once a member of the Vale, he had turned against them upon discovering their true nature. Their trust in one another deepened, and amid the turmoil, a quiet love blossomed between Eliza and Alistair, a beacon of hope in a world shadowed by darkness. Yet, as Eliza stood beneath the stars one crisp night, the chilling wind whispered a reminder: the greatest battles were yet to come, and the true enemy still waited in the twilight. The fragile peace at Thornfield was shattered one fateful evening when a mysterious visitor arrived under the cover of darkness. Cloaked in a heavy robe embroidered with the ancient sigils of the Obsidian Vale, the stranger's presence sent a ripple of unease through the estate. Eliza Thornfield sensed immediately that this was no ordinary guest. Gathering her closest allies Alistair, Lady Seraphina, and a recovering Amara, she confronted the visitor in the great hall, its towering arches casting long shadows in the flickering torchlight. The stranger removed their hood, revealing a face both familiar and feared. It was Lord Malric, a once ally turned adversary, whose ambition had led him into dark pacts with the very forces they opposed. "I come with a proposition," Malric declared, his voice silky yet edged with menace. "Join me, Eliza. Together, we can harness the Heartstone's power and rule the realms. Refuse, and face destruction." Eliza's heart hardened. The path of darkness was one she would never tread. Yet Malric's words struck a nerve. Could there be strength in alliance or only ruin? As tensions escalated, the group was forced into a deadly game of wits and power. Malric's knowledge of Thornfield's secrets challenged Eliza's understanding of her own heritage. In the midst of the turmoil, a hidden chamber beneath the manor was revealed, a vault containing relics of immense power, guarded by ancient enchantments and riddles. To protect the Heartstone, Eliza and her allies embarked on a perilous quest within Thornfield's own depths, facing trials that tested their courage, loyalty, and resolve. Along the way, buried memories surfaced of Eliza's parents, their sacrifices, and a betrayal that had set the shadows in motion. In a moment of revelation, Alistair confessed a secret he had long concealed: his family's bloodline was intertwined with the Luminaris, and his presence at Thornfield was both duty and penance. As Malric's forces closed in, alliances shifted, and the true nature of power was laid bare. The battle for Thornfield had become a battle for the soul of the realms. Eliza Thornfield stood at the crossroads to embrace the light, or to be consumed by shadow. The air hung thick with tension as Thornfield braced for the storm that was to come. Eliza Thornfield, now fully awakened to the depths of her power and heritage, stood at the heart of the estate's ancient hall, surrounded by her allies, each scarred by battles fought and secrets. kept. Malric's shadow loomed ever closer, his dark legions gathering beyond the moors, ready to strike. But this was no ordinary battle. It was a reckoning of souls. In the depths of the vault, Eliza discovered the celestial mirror, an artifact said to reveal one's true self, a weapon against deception and darkness. With trembling hands, she peered into the mirror and was confronted by visions, not only of her past and fears but also a dormant power buried deep within the flame of Luminaris, capable of purging shadow or consuming all. As Malric's forces breached Thornfield's walls, the estate erupted into chaos. The clash of steel and magic thundered through the corridors. Lady Serafina and Amara fought valiantly, their combined prowess turning the tide against the invaders. Alistair faced Malric in a duel that shook the very foundations of the manor. Words and blades intertwined as old grudges and buried truths came to light. Eliza, clutching the celestial mirror, called upon the flame, her voice ringing out in a song of power and hope. Light burst forth, a blinding inferno that swept across the battlefield. Malric, caught in the blaze, screamed as the darkness around him fractured. But in a final, desperate act, he unleashed a curse, a swirling tempest of shadow aimed at Eliza's heart. Time slowed as the curse struck, but the flame within her flared higher, consuming the darkness. The blast echoed, and silence fell. When the smoke cleared, Malric was gone, vanished into the void between worlds. Thornfield lay battered but unbroken. Eliza, exhausted but triumphant, stood amidst the ruins, a beacon of light against the encroaching night. Her journey from orphaned shadow to luminous guardian was complete, but the story of the Luminaris had only just begun. The first rays of dawn filtered through the shattered windows of Thornfield Manor, casting golden light over the remnants of a battle that had changed everything. The air was thick with the scent of smoke and rain, mingling with the quiet hum of renewal. Eliza Thornfield stood on the highest balcony, her gaze sweeping over the awakening lands below, fields once cloaked in shadow now kissed by the soft light of morning. The weight of her journey settled gently upon her shoulders, no longer a burden but a mantle of hope. Beside her, Alistair Greaves stepped forward, his hand finding hers. Their fingers intertwined, a silent promise forged through trials, loss, and unyielding faith. "It's over," he whispered. "For now." Eliza nodded, her eyes reflecting both the pain of sacrifice and the promise of tomorrow. "The darkness has retreated, but our work is just beginning." Within Thornfield's great hall, friends and allies gathered. Lady Serafina attended to the wounded with gentle hands, while Amara, her spirit unbroken, planned the rebuilding of what was lost. The estate, once a fortress of secrets and shadows, was now a beacon, a sanctuary for those who sought light. Eliza approached the celestial mirror, now resting on its pedestal, its surface calm and clear. She looked deeply, not for power, but for understanding. Visions appeared not of battles or betrayals, but of a future shaped by compassion, courage, and unity. A world where the Luminaris' legacy would guide not just the strong, but all who dared to dream. The echoes of the past whispered softly, blessings carried on the breeze. Eliza turned to face those who had stood with her, a family forged not by blood, but by choice and unbreakable bonds. We faced darkness and emerged stronger, she declared, voice steady and bright. Let Thornfield be a light in the shadows, a home for all who seek hope. Cheers rose, mingling with the birdsong of a world reborn. As the sun climbed higher, Eliza allowed herself a moment of peace, knowing that while the shadows would always linger, the light within her would never fade. Her story was no longer one of orphaned sorrow, but of luminous destiny. And the dawn of a new era had truly begun. Title: Eliza Thornfield, The Luminaris' Legacy, A Tale of Shadows and Light. Description: Dive into the epic journey of Eliza Thornfield, an orphaned girl thrust into a world of ancient magic, betrayal, and destiny. From the cold halls of Ashcroft Estate to the mystical ruins of Elder Moor, Eliza awakens the powerful legacy of the Luminaris, guardians of light against the encroaching darkness. With allies forged through fire and enemies lurking in every shadow, she must confront secrets, face harrowing trials, and embrace her true self. This gripping fantasy saga blends heart-pounding battles, forbidden alliances, and a tale of courage and love that will keep you captivated until the very last page. Witness the dawn of a new era where light triumphs over shadow and hope rises from despair.